We also have a member of Tom Amiano's office here with us tonight to speak on the taxation issue on the state level. And Quentin Mecke has been a great friend of the Harvey Milk Club and was our candidate for mayor, and has also done a lot of human rights work and work in civil rights. And I'd like to bring up Quentin Mecke to speak on Tom Amiano's bill.
Good evening, everyone. I had the pleasure this evening of not only following Dr. Aldrich here at the podium, but also dining with him beforehand. So it's been quite a pleasure, and I want to acknowledge the work not only Dr. Aldrich and his wife Michelle, but all of you here in the room, also Supervisor Campos and Supervisor Mercarini for leading the way of pushing San Francisco on the edge of a conversation regarding cannabis, legalization, regulation, and taxation. So you understand exactly what type of moment that we are at right now on a statewide level, but not only nationally as well as internationally. The conversation around legalization of marijuana has never been closer to happening in the United States. Mark this day when we talk about here on December 10th, because in 2010, if you thought the conversation around legalization was highly publicized and got quite a bit of media coverage, just wait until next year. But it's only going to happen with your help. This is not an advocacy moment, it is actually an organizing moment. You will have multiple opportunities next year to influence public policy on a state level, to make sure the issue that you have actually worked years and years in advancing through Access to Love, through CHAMP, through numerous incarnations over the years. The reason why this conversation has happened so much in 2009 and why it's going to blossom in 2010 is because of the work that you have put into it. I want to announce a date tonight. We actually just found this out before I left the office this evening. Please mark your calendars for January 12th, 2010. In a little over a month, that will be the first hearing for AB 390, the Regulation and Taxation Bill that will be heard in the Assembly Public Safety Committee, of which Assemblymember Amiano chairs. That will be the first opportunity to move forward legislatively with a full regulatory bill regarding the taxation and sale of marijuana on a statewide level here in California. What it will take: a massive organizing effort as contacting assembly members throughout the state, and specifically several Bay Area assembly members, and I will name them tonight. One, the representative for Assembly District 12, Fiona Ma, who sits on the Public Safety Committee, will need to hear your individual and collective voices loudly and clearly regarding the need for passage for a sensible drug policy when it comes to cannabis. In addition, in Berkeley, there's an Assemblywoman, Nancy Skinner, we believe also will be sitting on the Public Safety Committee at that time. She needs, once again, to hear your voice to advance this bill. This bill, we are hoping, by advancing through not only the Public Safety Committee, but also the Health Committee, will hopefully advance to the Assembly floor. The importance of that, and I'm to some extent preaching to the choir, is we are long overdue when we talk about not only cannabis, but for a sensible drug policy in the United States. It is crippling the state of California. It is, as has been previously mentioned, not only a civil rights issue, it is a social justice issue. The disproportionate representation of African Americans with regards to marijuana arrests and imprisonment is almost a 4-to-1 ratio. We're looking at what's now historic economic crisis in California. For many of you, I'm sure, saw we had just navigated a $25 billion shortfall in the previous fiscal year. It is estimated for this upcoming fiscal year to be an additional $20 billion. Forecasted after that, a series of years with at least $10 billion of deficits. The heart of California is at stake, and this issue is at the forefront of it, not only environmentally, There are many who use illicit public lands for the growth of cannabis. Speaking to the issue that Supervisor Campos talked about, which was cultivation, we need to address not only the delivery system through dispensaries, but also actually how the cannabis gets to dispensaries. And aggressively deal with that, and deal with that in a collective fashion, so that the regulations work not only for those who are producing the cannabis and growing the cannabis, but in addition for those who are selling it on the back end. For those of you, if there are any who operate dispensaries within the city, they bear a brunt on not only the front end of the situation, but also on the back end. And by that I mean in the front end, they are at the forefront of dealing with law enforcement, dealing with city regulations, dealing with state oversight, dealing with the DEA and the federal government. But on the back end, there are no regulations regarding the cultivation of cannabis. They are taking the risk of dealing with a product that is untested, unregulated, and it comes down to the skill and quality of their individual buyers at those dispensaries as to how that product eventually makes it to patients. As a medical issue, this means that we right now cannot guarantee safe access and a safe quality product to patients. This needs to get addressed immediately. One of the issues that we are seeing right now, for those of you who are aware and follow the conversations in Los Angeles and San Diego, where you have city attorneys and district attorneys who are aggressively and politically trying to create a gray area within medical marijuana right now. Now, we have spoken quite often to the press, and they have asked, well, you know, is there not a gray area with SB 420 and Proposition 215? And we would point out the fact that for those cities and municipalities, such as Oakland, San Francisco, who have aggressively regulated medical marijuana dispensaries, there has been no problem. Unfortunately, when you go to San Diego and Los Angeles, neither the city council or anyone else has chosen to regulate those issues. And so the city attorneys in those areas are now taking a very aggressive stance, which is having a ripple effect throughout the rest of the state. It's actually preempting a conversation that is not a conversation. Now people are asking, is there a problem with medical marijuana? And there's not a problem with medical marijuana. This is the challenge that we are facing. Where AB 390 then moves into that gap is by creating statewide regulation. What we need to do is replace the patchwork system of what we have right now with statewide regulation that would be clear as far as the guidelines, clear as far as the issues, and provide understanding for law enforcement and for proprietors about what their responsibilities are, what their role is, and how the entire system actually functions cohesively. So with that, I will leave you, I will inform Shona of the opportunities as we get closer to the initial hearing. There will be multiple hearings on AB 390 in January, but it will begin very early. January 12th will be the date. I can't give you a time that day because with the legislative session starting, January 12th turns out to be a day when hundreds of bills will be heard in the same committee, quite literally. Normally I could give you a direct time and say to organize around that moment, but I am hoping that through the support of the LGBT community, through the support of the cannabis community, that we can organize quite literally busloads of people to come to Sacramento and let your voice be heard.